Welcome back to our Arambol Goa studio. Apologies for the disruption in the stream. It was a power outage. Typical here for the monsoon, and this is Monsoon Sessions. Let's recommence where we left off with an agenda of what we're going to try to cover today. What is blockchain? Why does it matter? Virtual reality in the metaverse, including the future of social media, shopping, and digital communities. DAO, or DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations. NFTs, digital collectibles, dynamic NFTs. Universal ID, which could lead to universal passports, privacy, and avatars. The perma-web, where we get to store our content and data forever. Tokenomics and tokenization, with just a very basic touching on cryptocurrency. And then, whatever all this is, what are the actual tangible benefits to artists, creators, communities, entrepreneurs, venues? And then with this information, how can we set ourselves up to thrive in the world that is coming? So the blockchain is a revolution. At its core, it's a distributed ledger computing system. There's a very technical way of how transactions are processed and validated, and they're cryptographically secured to verify the transaction's legit. Any artificial blocks, trying to edit, trying to delete, it's rejected. In this way, no record can be faked. Technically, this means that organization or governments can't edit or censor records, or hackers even. This makes blockchain extremely useful as a store of value and authenticity. For instance, money, such as cryptocurrency, digital assets with NFTs, organizational decisions, DAOs, legal agreements, smart contracts, users' creations. The imagination inspired by blockchain could lead to enormous social consequences. And I can speak for myself on this, but from what I've seen around the years, the last 5 years, we've seen a new generation of financially independent individuals who've leveraged crypto's volatility to generate needed cash flow, like paying the bills or needing a flight somewhere. Even when prices are down, it's really useful as an emergency savings account, like a source of funds. And it's invaluable as long-term savings. We are in this window just before mainstream adoption. We're sorting through regulation, we're sorting through a lot of regulatory issues, and well-deserved. And because of that uncertainty, everything is still quite suppressed, and there's not that many people on these platforms, whatever the hype. But blockchain offers a lot more advantages. You can imagine the impact on actual democracy, holding leaders accountable for their actions, scrupulously reviewing public finances, accurately counting votes, and bypassing expensive or difficult third parties, among many others. So now we're gonna start to get into some of the core concepts, and to get out of the way that this Web3 is they term it agent-centric, where our device or ourselves or our pod serves as the agent, but it's also user-centric, where the power comes back to us, what we do with our data, with our content, that we own what we've got, that we can bypass institutions we don't want to use. Apps can use, or other apps can access our data once we give permission for it. For example, if you had to visit the doctor at the hospital, the doctor app would request your medical data specific for what they need to do. You would temporarily grant access to the doctor app. They would then be able to view all the records they needed, but they wouldn't have the right to store it. You take that, you keep that data, it's on your pod. It's not on a third-party server. Think of like the next version of these photo sharing and story sharing sort of apps. Instead of it being all hosted on these third-party cloud servers, instead you'll have all your photos distributed on your so-called pod, And then if you want to use one of these photo sharing apps, you grant permission for access to your photo feed. The feed is from your own personal pod storage. If you decide you don't want to use the app anymore, you revoke permissions with them. You still have all your photos and content. You don't need to download it all and restart everything again on new platforms and stuff like that. And this is just the beginning of it. The universal identity thing is coming for us, for good and for bad. But one is, convenience is super. We have our ID. There's probably some blockchain code attached to us, and through that, we are identified. Our passports, our driver's license, our healthcare, all of that will also include one login for our entire lives. And there hasn't been a solution for this yet, but there are many well-heeled groups working on this one. And on the creative side, each of us, instead of just some static photo like on our LinkedIn page or social media thing, we're going to blossom these 3D avatars for the rest of our lives. Our one central, our real identity, okay, sure. But we'll also be able to create other avatars of our pets, of our, anything. There's a real creative element to this new sort of world that's coming, and that's particularly what we're interested in, want to focus on. Let's drudge through the tech stuff first. Let's get this one out of the way. There's smart contracts. This is essentially the underpinning of blockchain law, which is going to completely disrupt the status quo of legal operations. And a smart contract is a hard-coded computer script that digitally binds its rules in a format that cannot be tampered with or changed. So the terms, so you're going to agree to this thing or this purchase or this service or this gig, and you get the terms and conditions. There might be 6 to 8 of them, whatever. You see them in real world language you can understand. And these terms are generated dynamically from the contract. And then when you sign off on it, if you agree to it, you agree to all the terms, and everything that happens after, which is all digitally and autonomously sort of engineered, because you agree to it, this is how it is. There's no changing the agreement, If you agree to do work and get paid and you do the work, you're getting paid for it. So smart contracts rule everything to do with some sort of dynamic interactivity on a blockchain. I don't even know if that's correct, but let's edit this one, scrub it. Scrub that one. Let's say many actions on the blockchain are ruled by smart contracts. NFTs are all about the smart contract, how tokens are distributed between organizations and investors and participants. The tokenomics are governed by a smart contract. DAO voting, if this candidate 1 gets more votes than this candidate 2, the smart contract says that candidate 1 is the winner. Transactions like land sales or leases in real world and virtual, the popular decentralized finance or DeFi, like the yields that say you put in this coin, in 1 year you will make 12,000%. That's a smart contract. It's a poor one. It's a dangerous one. It's a bad one. But like that, they've hard coded a bad idea into permanent existence. And so check those smart contract rules before you sign up on anything. They can also be used for ticket refund policies, royalties paid out for creations, and many, 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 many more uses. Ethereum is a very valuable platform. You probably heard it. It's like so-called number 2 to Bitcoin, but it's actually way more useful than Bitcoin because it's a global distributed computing system. It's like if you had a computer, instead of actually having a computer, you would just let, say, Ethereum computing run the application, distribute it. And Ethereum also processes and issues templates for replicable smart contracts. For example, ERC 1155 is the present gold standard for governing the creation and transactioning of NFTs and as well as fungible items. Fungible, and particularly dynamic ones, which we're going to get into because they're very, very interesting for artists. If you want to deploy an NFT, you copy the ERC 1155 or whatever standard smart contract, edit the fields, deploy it to the blockchain. It's processed, your NFT is online. Also, which I think is one of the lesser known features of Web3 that's going to impact our everyday lives, is this notion of the permaweb, where things are stored forever. So, okay, so users are hosting all our own content on our pods, and it's distributed. And where and how is this going to happen? Isn't it going to be expensive to, like, you know, host, what, $20 a month on your web hosting for 60 years or whatever you got left? And, you know, no, there's this new concept that's inherently built into these blockchain processes, and it could be referred to as the permaweb. So back to the early days of the internet as well, like in the 90s, it's set up, it's still set up today, but any computer connected to the internet could run our own server. Yes, it was super, super tricky at that time, but you could do it enough to set up a server, and then whatever the web page or the information you wanted to have online to share, you would host it on the server. So it was very difficult, and so in the end, people just said, okay, let's, well, who's going to do it for us? This is where the web hosting industry came along. They're like, okay, you don't have to set up all this complex stuff on your personal computer on your 14.4 modem, and then, you know, and then you got to leave the computer on all the time. And if the internet connection even worked, web hosts were like, we're going to have ready-made servers, high-speed networks, and we'll exchange that for a monthly or annual fee. So then in the present sort of end of this cloud era, the content, data, and apps we use are distributed among mostly external server facilities, which could include VPS, or virtual private servers, third-party hosting services, and also, say, these so-called social networks, Facebook, Google, Instagram. For example, when you upload your photos to Instagram, where's it hosted? It's hosted Facebook servers. And in some small print, I don't know if it's still accurate today, they effectively own the rights to our content, as well as our usage data and activity that we sign off in these elaborate terms and conditions that we do. You know, no one reads this stuff. And then they sell it to others or share it. And you know, if you're watching or reading at home, you can see what I say about the next part of that. About basically, we're compliant to mass self-surveillance. Anything logged to a blockchain is stored forever, as long as there are active participants on the network, such as nodes, or somebody, you know, like a BitTorrent that's sharing files. Like, you think about like BitTorrent and uTorrent and Pirate Bay and all that stuff. You know, you go in there, there's vast amounts of content of films and music, and the way that blockchain is set up is pretty much exactly the same. It's a peer-to-peer network. You contribute little chunks of files, but not complete files, to the network. And when someone looks for a file to download, the system pieces all the the parts from around the internet that you download, and it all comes together in the file that you watch. This is this is the same sort of thing. And as long as people are using uTorrent and sharing movies, for example, like this content will be available. So the technology's been there. You don't even need the financial incentive. You've got the social incentive of, okay, I want to consume films, and I want to share to that network. So, and as long as people have interest in that, these sort of sites are going to keep going. This permanence is particularly relevant to NFTs, smart contracts, and legacy content, such as the memoirs, the memories, the stories, the achievements in your life that you're proud of in your lifetime, and you want to store beyond your lifetime for your future generations, for the future generations of humanity. So the old web hosting model is about to be disrupted. Soon, we're going to pay once, store forever. There should be no more expensive monthly web hosting bills. This will also affect how subscriptions, for example, SoundCloud, they have to charge a fee because of the astronomical expense for hosting petabytes of music, a massive amount. And most similar companies or those involved in the internet space, the biggest expense of non-workforce is usually web hosting. So, and there's a few major players. For my day job, I consult a blockchain app called Legacy, and we're working at the moment with Filecoin and IPFS through their various programs. We work with, or we participated and accelerated with Arweave early in the year, and there's more and more and more and more. And an example of a decentralized peer-to-peer, say, successor to SoundCloud is Audius. You can upload your music for free. We don't have to pay for that, and they're not selling our data to cover the cost of that web hosting. It's straight up, and if you're not sure, you can go see the open source of the code and read the smart contracts and see how the system's set up. But check out Audius, backed by Skrillex, Deadmau5, a lot of artists. It's sort of, yeah, it's one of many examples. I have now added a little row on the bottom for some of these things of risks, because with the concept of permaweb, where things are stored forever, be particularly mindful of what you post, message, or share. It's saved and lodged under your name forever. The next topic, decentralized autonomous organizations, or DAOs. I think this was the concept that excited me the most when I was first exposed to blockchain about 5.5 years ago. So DAOs and DAO-like structures are the future of governments and organizations. They're transparent, open, and accountable, and decisions are made by whatever governance system is agreed from the smart, such as a smaller core of guardians or a massive global community. Votes are made through an app that pose certain questions or decisions. Because the rules are hard-coded in these smart contracts, anybody signing up knows the deal before they agree and commit, and once under the way, the rules can't be changed. That's a lot more complex, and there's a lot of work that would have to go to change systems, but again, that depends how the system is set up. DAOs show that token transfers, payments, purchases are clearly, like related to the organization of the project, are clearly evident on the blockchain. For example, investor puts in money, they expecting this thing to be built and this thing to be purchased, and so you can see in the transactions, okay, it was done. Imagine if tax systems and leadership promises and financial transactions, voting in elections, general corporate conduct, media behavior, these were all transparent and open, where everybody has to abide by the same pre-agreed rules. I think disrupting and simplifying and making a just tax system, I think this is one of the disruptions that's going to happen this decade. DAOs can take all sorts of forms. I'm going to show a video in a moment of one of them. An example of a social DAO specifically dealing with climate change is KlimaDAO. Basically, it mathematically tackles the weaknesses of the global climate change crisis and corruption, more specifically. KlimaDAO buys as many globally traded carbon credits it can afford from the pool of contributors. This skyrockets the price of carbon, meaning that polluters have to pay astronomical rates if they are slow to adopt tangible emission reductions. And one example of a DAO for artists is DAO Records. It's a decentralized digital record label utilizing audio NFTs, virtual events, artist-controlled royalties. We're going to have an in-depth with DAO Records over the lead up to this special event we're throwing and planning for the end of October and beyond. And we'll speak with the founder, Vandal from DAO Records, in the time to come. So I'm going to move it across now to the first video of the day or the evening. And let's see if I can do that. Is everyone enjoying the episode so far? Some nods of the head. It's mind-blowing. All right, so let's see if this works.
In less than a year, Klima has made a huge impact on the carbon market. We've built the foundation that will last.
And it seems it's working, but not.
In less than a year, Klima has made a huge impact on the carbon market. We've built the foundation that will last for decades to come as we progress through our roadmap. In the first 2 months, we absorbed 14 million BCTs into our treasury. This is what that looks like. This was the result of 60,000.
Let's start this again. Thank you for your patience. This is the first time I've ever done a slideshow into a video playlist presentation. But let's see if this one works.
In less than a year, Klima has made a huge impact on the carbon market. We've built a foundation that will last for decades to come as we progress through our roadmap. In the first 2 months, we absorbed 14 million BCTs into our treasury. This is what that looks like. This was the result of 60,000 people getting together and pooling our resources to make an impact. The market value of our treasury is sitting at $116 million. And by staking Klima, you own a piece of that treasury as a reward for helping fight climate change. As the community in DAO matures, Klima will become an important driver of economic activity in developing nations. By increasing the viability of new, high-impact carbon projects, we will cement our place in the traditional carbon space. In order to ensure Klima is a central figure in global climate action and climate finance, we want you to become part of the fight. Climates are stronger together.
That was just one example. And the DAOs are incredible things. You could set up a DAO that had no intention other than to solve a social problem that rewards everyone without a need for profit or commissions or anything like that. And we're going to get into now the subject of tokenomics. Tokenomics are the hard-coded economics of token-based apps and organizations. Each cryptocurrency and token-based economy is governed by their devised mathematical rules. So what this means is you could once you figure out your objectives and what you want to do and how you want to do it, you would then craft a token economy around being able to what's that power term when it just sort of power goes on and on and on? Let us know in the comments. A perpetual economic engine. After studying 100 plus cryptocurrencies through a paper through a university, it's admitted that virtually all tokens are based on hypotheses, meaning whatever rules they devise from the outset. And this is how it will play out. This includes the starting prices if they're to be exchanged with other coins, if value is to change for any reason. Let's look at Bitcoin, whose rules are comparatively straightforward. At the moment, it operates on a limited inflationary model. The total supply of Bitcoin is capped at 21 million, and there's only a few million left. Every 4 years, there's a period called the halving, and we're halfway through the halving period, where the number of blocks available or rewards are cut in half, which the mechanism for that was to increase the value of said Bitcoin. Once the supply limit runs out, Bitcoin mining disappears, and it turns Bitcoin into deflationary. There's no more new supply. You can't just print money at the Federal Reserve and bail out trillions of dollars to bank. There's just, that's it, that's set. But tokens don't just have to be about an alternative system of money. You could have tokens to denote certain DAO voting rights. Like if you signed up for something, maybe you would have 5 tokens, which would be enough to vote if you were in another 5, or they can act in the same way of shares or in crowdfunding. For example, if a project was trying to raise 10K, it could give its contributors tokens based on the percentage of their deposit. So say someone had enough to put in 2,000, that's 20% of the available tokens, And in a very simplified way, those 20% of the tokens means they would earn 20% of the profits, if applicable to this project. The risk reward on tokenomics is that many cryptocurrencies are doomed to fail because of their illogical or greedy tokenomics. But you're able to see the tokenomics by reviewing their website, their white or green papers. You do your research, but if they hide their tokenomics, or you see the chart and most of the tokens go to the founders, don't touch that token. I'm going to touch very briefly on cryptocurrencies. I am not a financial advisor. You can see the massive disclaimer on the next slide as well, but it is relevant to this subject. The best known example of blockchain is cryptocurrency. Yet these are more than just overhyped virtual coins with fancy names and logos. Each blockchain is essentially a project with a team that's often run by DAOs or DAO-like to get it started, but they can also be giant corporations. In their white papers, they'll specify a roadmap, like what they hope to accomplish, what they have accomplished, where they're going, a theoretical tokenomic model, and usually a publicity department that's letting people know about the coin, which is a lot where this marketing hype and misinformation can come through. It might not even be the PR department. It might be somebody that wants the value of that coin to go up. So be very careful about headlines. Back in the day, we used to invest or like put little bits of cash into ICOs or initial coin offerings that were basically like the Kickstarter for a new blockchain project. And if you were lucky enough to, even put a few $100 into the ICO of something that turned out to be, the next Google or the next Apple, you can just imagine the returns on that, and that's what a lot of people have done. You might have heard of DeFi, which is decentralized finance. They're platforms that or apps that use DAOs and smart contracts to govern their tokenomics. If you invest in crypto, you're hopefully not buying any random assortment of coins, but it's because you found a project, a quality project with accomplished teams and verifiable roadmaps, and they've made great progress. They're delivering what they're promising. These are the strong projects. And our opportunity as individuals, especially those of us, starving artists and budget travelers, people with big families they've got to, look after. This is our opportunity in the next 1-2 years of the so-called bear market, where prices just keep declining as the global economy just self-destructs. This is our time to identify and maybe allocate the funds to the coins of projects you've researched, like and believe in. And there's other ways to gain crypto as well. You can earn free crypto in many ways, fulfilling tasks, helping promote ventures, crewing at global Metaverse festivals, random airdrops, where, yes, they're just giving you crypto. Maybe you got to share it around on your networks. But the point of airdrops is these apps want to drive user adoption. So they're like, here, try some of our crypto. And yeah, so look out for those as well. So cryptocurrency are governed by their rules of tokenomics. They can be traded internally, peer-to-peer privately, or on more common exchanges, which generally are popular because of the improved user experience compared to setting up wallets and sending crypto to yourself, you thought, but you actually didn't know what you were doing, and you lost that Ethereum forever. So exchanges make that a little bit simpler. You can also trade them for other crypto tokens or stable coins, which are tokens pegged to well-known currencies. You can trade them for cash, or you can increasingly pay them for or use them at shops for services. You can use your crypto directly to pay for things. And pick the good pick the strong projects. They're the ones that the value should go up, and they're legit. And this so-called crypto winter is exposing a lot of the poor thought-out tokenomics, the scams. So my disclaimer, crypto is risky business. You must perform your own due diligence. Understand that there is still mountains of federal regulation and global cooperation before it is widely accepted and potentially mainstream. You must also be aware of the tax implications for all present and future trades. Be wary of any offer or suggestion. Many well-marketed coins and projects have turned out to be scams, pyramid schemes, and worse. Do your research. Don't risk what you can't afford to lose. Don't rush into anything. Patience. What interests me more about this idea of tokens is the vehicle of tokenization and rewards. Because tokenomics need not have anything to do with money or crypto exchanges. Tokens can be issued as rewards for contributions, longevity, milestones. By earning or finding enough tokens, it could open access to private spaces and events. For example, if you happen to help clean up around the beaches and the creeks during Goa Global Arts Festival week, you would get tokens, and a couple of days of helping, you'll be invited to the end of festival cast and crew party. Tokens can also enable controls like becoming a moderator. Tokens can be used as shares or voting power or to trade within platforms for other virtual assets. So using smart contracts, percentages of each transaction can be allocated to predefined wallets, such as a project's central treasury, or if you're, say, the artist of the creator, then the transaction, that could go to your wallet, however the script defines it. The example of the treasury, it's at the core of a lot of these DAOs. The treasury is a transparent account following predetermined rules for how its funds are distributed. For instance, covering infrastructure costs, allocating a marketing budget, or a DAO that votes to approve a purchase or hire that's been proposed to the organization. And through our global Metaverse Festival experiment, we seek to uncover and template an effective tokenization model that could then be applied to any artist project, exhibitions, events, festivals, communities. Early supporters, self-funding, would seed this treasury for initial expenses. Crew are rewarded in tokens for completing tasks. They need the cash, or they just want it. They can choose to cash out early for real money, but they could also choose to stake or hold their tokens, leave it in the treasury, and receive a share of the project's success, if it is, you know? It's more like the burden is shared by more and by many. So one thing that we're trying to solve over the months ahead is how much initial seeding does a project need to progress? How much do you have to put in the treasury? Often we're self-funding our projects, but is there a formula, an economic formula here where you're like, okay, this is what I want to accomplish or attain. These are the tasks and steps needed to reach it. And what's that starting amount that needs to be in there to start this engine? We're going to try to find out. Now, the popular topic of NFTs, non-fungible tokens. It's a very strange word, fungible, and you probably looked it up. So the example of a fungible item can be traded or subdivided, whereas a non-fungible item is unique. So examples, okay, so a $100 bill is fungible, because it can be an exchange for any combination of change. You can give me a $50, you can give me a bunch of quarters, you can give me all that stuff. It's not a one-for-one exact change. But non-fungible items are like your phone. If you loan your phone to somebody, you'd expect to receive that exact same phone back, right? Fair enough? Yeah. So NFT is a simplified term that describes their critical mechanism on the blockchain. It's an immutable, tamper-proof record. So a non-fungible item, that means whatever it's related to, this NFT, it is a unique, one-of-a-kind piece that the owner owns, and if you're the owner, you own it. So this means that NFTs are particularly well-suited to legally binding certificates of authenticity. For example, pieces of original artwork memorabilia, digital warranties on purchases, timestamp copyright over your creative works, status rewards, virtual trophies to mark accomplishments, tickets, many more use cases. I'm particularly interested in the concept of dynamic NFTs, and I think these are very intriguing for artists, events, creatives. So digital tickets are an obvious match. NFT tickets eliminate counterfeiting. Well, they also build in, autonomously, they build in royalties to the event producer upon any authorized resale. So think about, you want to go to this concert, you're buying it from a scalper, the scalper's making all the profit, the event producer and the artist in it, they're getting whatever that ticket was. You buy it for $80, the scalper sells it for $300. So now in this sort of NFT ticket, if say the ticket was $80 and someone couldn't go, so they were going to resell it, and the royalties would be built in. So okay, say that they sold it for $100, the venue would still get a percentage of that sale every time. Now, dynamic NFTs are super cool. So think of collections of your work like an album or a book. So, for example, artists can crowdfund their next release or tour, but let's say release, by offering a dynamic NFT for their album. And so you could say that your album's coming out in April, here's the NFT for the album, the sales are going to help the production, the mastering, all the expenses for it. So you create your album as a dynamic NFT, and you can start selling this album even if not all the songs are finished yet. It means that your album could be out next year, but each month, as each song is finished and mastered, it's added to the collection until the entire album is complete. So that means if you were an early adopter and buying that album, helping out the artists, then every time a new song's added, this album package grows and grows and grows. At the end of it, you've got the album, probably all this extra stuff that the artist can throw in for it. But that's a dynamic NFT. It starts with, a certain amount of things, and it can increase more in the collection. Another example for books, especially ebooks, each chapter can be added to the NFT, dynamic NFT as it's ready, or bonus chapters can be added after the launch date. And if you've bought a copy of the book, or you've got the book NFT, you've got the entire book. This is particularly useful for series. You could sell the series and then just give an episode each time. That's monetization, isn't it? Now, the risks of NFTs, other than beyond the hype, there are countless platforms and marketplaces where you can mint NFTs. But first off, do you even know the platform that you're deciding to try out? Do your research as well. Also be extremely wary of costs, or sometimes called gas fees. These are the tokens that are paid out to miners or validators or nodes for processing each transaction. This is the financial incentive to keep these systems running and efficient. So minting can be super expensive, especially on Ethereum-based marketplaces. And it can be very expensive if you decide you've minted an expensive NFT and then you want to cancel it. I saw recently you also have to pay for the canceling of it. And at the time when I think Ether was a lot higher, it was quite a big bill. But also, it's a reminder to read the terms of the smart contract and see what you're agreeing to so there's no surprises. If there is a surprise, you just have to go through the smart contract and say, whoops, I didn't read that thing. Alrighty, so this techie stuff is starting to blow into the winds of Arambol, and we start to uncover the so-called Metaverse, which is a fancy term for worlds based out of virtual and augmented reality. It's definitely the more fun and creative area of Web3. So it utilizes 3D virtual reality, augmented reality features, spatial, completely surrounding audio through the science and physics of audio, navigable avatars, 360 view cameras, and then devices and luxuries you're probably not aware of yet. But think of a film and the senses and what senses are missing in a film well, I've thought for decades now, digital aroma is coming, and it is. It's a tricky one, though. But haptic devices for touch, they're here. And also, recently, I've started to see the possibilities of the metaverse as a medium, where it's like the new audio, it's the new video. It's you walk into a world that has been constructed to surround you from 360 degrees, every sense you can imagine. And it's like, wow. And immersive storytelling, particularly the wonderful ancient indigenous stories, could be so well graphically, visually represented in these spaces. And then the future of social networking. Massive, globally connected virtual cities are coming. And they've actually been around for a while. With a virtual cities governance run by DAOs, you've got tokenomics that are fueling self-perpetuating economies. That means lots of jobs. Within, every citizen gets votes. And the success of a lot of these DAO-run virtual city experiments may very well serve as inspiration or models for future real-life cities and nations. The metaverse, yes, the hype has been this year. There's a major jostle right now for land and user share in the metaverse. The numbers are people just aren't really using or adopting it at the moment. And there's a lot of factors for this. Greed is one of them, greed. And control. And the big players like Decentraland, Sandbox, and MetaBook, they're seeking ultimate domination in their own way. The more intriguing widespread push is for an open metaverse where all our avatars we spend time in, all the content we ever create, our NFTs, our assets, and everything else are interoperable between worlds, between platforms and worlds. Interoperability is the thing all these platforms are working towards together this year of improving, including the metaverse. So you could go to a metaverse party in one place, and with your avatar and your fancy Snoop Dogg BMW, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on this thing, and then you can bring your Snoop Dogg BMW into another world with a slightly different pixelated look. But it's you, it's yours, you carry it around with you everywhere on the internet. And then the final thing before we reveal what we've been talking about when we say the word festival. The components of the so-called metaverse, or these virtual worlds, immersive multimedia is at the core. Augmented reality, virtual reality, spatial audio, 360 video. One of the things really holding back the so-called metaverse world is that most people don't have the bulky, expensive, and reasonably primitive hardware to enjoy the most optimal VR experience. Hardware is expensive. Apple glasses are coming next year. It's slowly, right? It's all coming, but it's coming. And then when you get on a metaverse platform, the quality of the platform's graphics and animation, I liken to 80s and 90s video games. Some of them, I don't know, at the end of the day, it's about fun. Like we develop on Mozilla Hubs, and it's a fun environment. It's cool. But it looks like, Super Mario Brothers. Does it? Let us know in the comments. Because, oh yeah, the one thing I'm going to say is, after all this chit-chat, we're going to meet up in the metaverse if you're actually still interested. Other things holding the metaverse back, the video game industry is not so keen on adoption, and no surprise, they already have much more amazing worlds that have been designed for them that they're lost in all the time. Why are they going to go to the substandard sort of money-driven, surveillance-risked, corporate iteration of creativity or whatever? So what's going to happen is probably won't even be called the metaverse when we're in it. It's going to be a bridge between that, the experience, knowledge, and determination of the gamer community will probably help mold this world that the rest of the world come in, and we meet somewhere in the middle of the new social networks. The metaverse is a lengthy work in progress. And our advantages as creatives is because we know it's coming and it's lumbering along, it's giving us time to play with the new creative tech that is coming. 12+ channel spatial audio is well underway, with music now joining movies to benefit from Dolby Atmos, who are at the forefront of it. And the science of sound that I've started studying a lot this year where it seemingly comes from every angle. So instead of stereo trying to replicate, helicopter flying over, that sound will hit your ears from the direction of where the helicopter is supposed to be, and from everywhere. Designers, animators, film producers, and developers will find no shortage of work in the 3D, AR, VR, 360-degree camera, and NFT spaces. There are tons of jobs out right now, and this is one slide I forgot to put in there. There is so much funding available right now in Web3 and blockchain. It is, look, there's still a window. There's still a window, but if you're at all interested in any of these concepts and you're thinking of how to reconstruct your life, or you want to become a freelancer, you're a freelancer looking for more work, dive into the rabbit hole of blockchain and Web3. There are grants, there are bounties, there are jobs of all sizes. Too much to list here. That's probably a very separate episode, but the opportunity is here in this space, and it's a very exciting space to be in the world right now. So here's a summary of the opportunities for artists in the new world. So there's new in-demand skill sets for freelancers. For example, if you gain a competency in spatial audio or AR, VR, NFT design, or building 3D spaces, whatever, these skills are in hot demand right now. And they will be as more people need the help. It's like being a web designer earlier in the day. Well, not everyone wanted or even knew what a website was back in the day. And then there were web designers everywhere. Then there were hairdressers and DJs and yoga teachers and coffee shops. But yes, oh dear, okay, we'll scrub that one, edit that one. Oh, that was good, okay, thank you. Other opportunities, there's new mediums, platforms, income streams for performances, for growing organic followings, for distribution. There are all these, like DAO Records. You probably didn't know who DAO Records was before this. There's Audius. You might not have known Audius. There's, and then being able to play live, it's lockdown proof. This is one of my favorite things too, is the show must go on. But also the other opportunities for artists is really making us step up the bar to improve the quality of our live and stream performances. I don't think it's really, if you could be on a webcam playing your acoustic guitar for mama, wanting to be a star. But to compete, I guess, in this new level, we're going to have to up our game to fit into these immersive experiences, or collaborate with other artists who can help you do these worlds and create these spaces. And the last opportunity for artists on this list is those of us who are early adopters at the beginning of technology, beginning of technological trends. The early adopters who experiment now become valuable veterans, consultants, and strategists by the time of mainstream adoption. So if you start learning now, okay, yeah, there's a learning curve. Yeah, it's going to take time, and that's great. Learning is great. But by you learning now, you're going to be able to help people in a while that say, yeah, I need help with this thing. I'm like, oh, yeah, I can help you with it. It spawns a whole bunch of use cases, and for your own projects and for those of others. Early adopters. Oops, oh no, I pressed the wrong button. I pressed the wrong button on my first slideshow. Okay, now here's the dramatic moment. In fact, before the dramatic moment, we're going to show another video. How about that, everyone? And I actually don't know what video this is. That was a clip from our friends and collaborators. They've created something called the Cityverse, which is they populate a virtual city based on real cities. They've done New York City. They're launching Miami in December. we're talking about adding Goa to the map. And artists, whether locally in the area or anywhere around the world, can leave artwork. This is augmented reality, that you need an app or glasses or something to see it. But let's say that you've got like a treasure map app on your phone and you're wandering around, say, the streets of Arambol, the streets of New York City. The map is going to show you things that have been left there as gifts or as, you know, a walking exhibition of art. And that means participants can actually see it. Well, all the other locals around will think everyone's crazy, like, oh yeah, look at this thing, yeah. When they can't see anything, they don't have the app. So metaclaims.io is the website for them, and we're looking at prototyping some of their technology at the Goa Global Arts Festival. And somewhat dyslexically, a lot of us just slip and say GLOA when we start to say this thing, so we've been referring to it as GLOA. And actually, if you spend some time looking at the letters, it actually makes sense. So with all these concepts that we've just explored, there's a lot of them, and most of them are very techy, and a lot of them are very socially transformative. So how could we, what's the most practical means of where we could tie everything together, experiment with these concepts, and sort of look at the end and see what we learn? And this is where we've come up with the Goa Global Arts Festival. Perhaps we're reinventing the festival. Our friends in New Zealand, with whom I participated in numerous global music festivals for many years, we've worked the last few years, especially in the lockdown era, on the topic of virtual events and how to humanize them more, how to make it more connected, but to be able to let events still happen even in the case of, say, weather conditions. Say if a hurricane rolled through the city, or, well, maybe that's not a good example, actually. But say like heavy rainstorm, you can't get to this concert that's 200 kilometers away or something, or it's just something happens, you can still participate in this sort of world. In a lockdown era, you're allowed 6 people in a place. Well, guess what? You're going to have a dandy good old time of your party of up to 6 people. And you're still connected to this exciting event with a lot of other like-minded souls around the world. So Mr. J-Man, Captain J-Man, when I told him about Goa Music Lab Showcase, our monsoon session series would culminate at the end of October, he said, why don't we just transform it into something like the Goa Global Arts Festival? And I was like, wow, J-Man. At first I was like, wow, that sounds great. And then I realized all the work that a normal festival entails. And this is part of what we're trying to create here. You hear the word festival, your imagination probably is based on the festivals you've been to in your lifetime. And like, you know, I'm thinking of Burning Man and Fusion Festival and these huge ones. But in this context, I want to make it very clear that this festival is intentionally intended to be small, intimate, safe, inspiring, experimental, learning, giving, and for the greater social good as well. That we'll also get into some of those, that the Cityverse, the whole core of them is you pick social action that needs to be actioned inside a community, such as cleaning up litter, or perhaps there's an oil spill or something like that. And the map shows people, okay, there's a need for the community to gather here to help with something, and then you earn tokens or something, you know, NFTs, whatever it is. So, and also, we don't want to bring thousands of people to go in this little humble village of Arambol for security, for safety purposes as well, but this is not the intent. We're hoping to organize a really cool vibe the week of the so-called festival around Goa, and have this awesome weekend where it's sort of just normal events, you know, but with the differences, we stream from the Metaverse and to the Metaverse, and then later in the weekend, it's sort of like a Saturday to festival when it's just a free-for-all. And then we have all these international performances and collaborations. It's an ambitious project, and that's why we've decided that this festival we're going to keep nice and small, learn these concepts, and then keep the world open for the next 6 months. And see, you know, festivals today is you spend a year planning them, preparing them, crews, setup, builds, all this stuff like that. And then maybe you have a one-day festival. Maybe you have a one-week festival, but then when it's over, it's over. Everything's torn down. Burning Man, they burn the house down, and then and it's done. And it's in that way, it's quite wasteful. There's one part about it, memories. You've got to live on your memories, and then it's gone. You're in the moment. But one of the digital advantages is that we can set up worlds that you can have a festival, I guess, at the opening of it, but you can continue to contribute to this world and make it more cool and add these, and it's dynamic and organic, and it grows like that. So this is what we're going to try to accomplish. And starting small, baby steps, every step of the way. So I'm just going to recap the key concepts to try and explore. If you're interested, then we can all meet up in the metaverse in about 5-10 minutes, and you can have a poke around. The key concepts we're going to trial explore at GLOA include creating fun and engaging virtual reality spaces, experiences, and worlds, at the center of which are showcase live performances from local and international headliners and enjoyed by a live and global audience. We want to solve the challenge of improving human interconnectivity and interaction in virtual events through satellite parties, through maybe reverse screening technology where performers can see everyone that's watching from online, where it looks like a crowd out there, and they can feel the vibes of the audience and the dance floor, and consequently, or on the reverse side, improving the viewing experience for people at home, where it's not just looking at a screen. We're going to set up augmented reality NFT tours of Arambol for those who wander around, but ideally to give people exclusive glimpse of what it's really like to be here in Arambol, the streets we see, the beach, the food planets, all the stuff around. We're able to do that with augmented reality and make those people, the global audience, to feel maybe a little bit more like they're part of here. For those of us who are here, our guests will enjoy NFT art exhibitions in augmented reality, sort of like Easter egg hunts. We might sort of scatter things around the town, and then, and if you've got a ticket and you've got the app, then you find them, and you find an NFT to add to your collection, and scenic tours of Arambol as well. Maybe when you go, say, by the church, the big iconic church here, or Food Planet, there's information on the map that tells you a little more about the history of the place. Or so the virtual reality tourism is going to be a big thing. We're very keen, especially myself as an aspiring music producer, to really dabble in spatial audio, and not just the concepts that we're told through Dolby Atmos, but to experiment with speakers and placement and those sort of things as well. So say I'm playing as a performer, I've actually got control over 6 to 8 different speakers coming at different directions and different intensities and different frequencies, that I have the control to then allocate sound to whatever source and build up energy and excitement like that. 360-degree video and how that interacts with the metaverse. So a 360 camera you could put at the top of a circular venue, like our friends at Lush Garden. And then in the metaverse, you would see this 360 camera, even like snapshots every minute or so. How are we running this thing? We definitely are going to be trying out DAO-like distributed organizations of roles, of governance. Like many DAOs, it's probably going to be manually proven this first run through, but as we learn the tasks and the decisions and everything that as it comes up, we sort of draft out how we would run the smart contracts to set up an actual DAO. The tokenomics, this is the heart of it too, is like how to reward the contributors, which beyond artists and performers includes crew, the event producers, the venues, the promoters, socially minded community helpers, everyone involved. How can tokenomics make sure artists are fairly paid, that it doesn't become a burden on venues where they're paying more than they're actually earning? Using what tokenomic model could help satisfy all of this amicably. And then something we've been discussing in my day job the last week or so, MIDI interactivity in the metaverse. This does not seem to be done just yet. And I hope I haven't given away company secrets. It's open source, everything. So this is what we're looking for. If you're still listening and you're still interested, we're putting out a call for help locally here in Arambol, Goa, domestically across India, but also globally as well. We're looking for more artists. We're looking for a crew. We're looking for venues and people that just want to help or support in any way. If you want to learn and trial some new skills, you want to experiment with some of these concepts, help us build this global festival, this virtual reality metropolis. So we're looking for everything from visual artists like photographers, designers, illustrators, animators, developers. If you're JavaScript, Rust, WebAssembly, Unity or Unreal, Mozilla Hubs, MIDI, we want to hear from you. There is work for you. We want to hear from cutting-edge venues in Goa and abroad who could host satellite or watch parties to plug into the Metaverse festival. And you could also perform from your satellite party into the Metaverse. There are a few requirements, technical requirements, reliable power, internet. Well, that spells out most of Goa now, don't it? Crew, we need sound engineers. Sound guy would be good for our weekly Thursdays. Live lighting, visual techs, roadies, camera operators, streamers, supporters. You just like the idea? Help us seed this autonomous treasury. Contribute to our infrastructure requirements. Promoters, help us spread the word. Musicians, I'm looking for a cellist for the season ahead. If that's you, please write to Goa Music Lab. Dancers, modular synths, experimental artists, indigenous storytellers. What's your creative thing? Maybe it's something that doesn't even have a niche or a subgenre or a tag or a label. You're doing something completely different. Whoever you are, please write in. Please say hello. And that's wrapping up, I think, the informational side of this evening. Coming up on Goa Music Lab the next 2 Thursdays. Our studio sessions continue, hot off the press. Our one and only violin guy, Bombay Masked E-Fiddler, live on studio sessions next Thursday on Goa Music Lab. And the week after that, a special guest to be announced. Festival planning and meetups are underway. You're going to hear a lot more about that, so please do get involved. Our next Goa Music Lab live event at this point in time looks like it's going to be Thursday, September 29th. Where, when, and how, you will learn in the weeks to come. And then October 24th to 31st, it's the week of Goa Global Arts Festival. So, wow, it's been a long one. Let me leave you with one more video of, and then, we could meet in the demonstration lounge of a Metaverse space through Afterspace. But let's have another video first showing the Goa Global Arts Festival. Actually, we're just looking at the mock-up of Lush Garden in Arambol at the moment in the Metaverse. The first one that Captain J-Man created. And then we're going to see the video he made for the Goa Festival. Well, I'm not sure that video played, so do check out the Goa Global Arts Festival Goa Global Arts Festival on YouTube, and you'll see that video properly. Yes. So, well, we're back here now in the studio, and let's see if anyone is still watching this. Let's see. And thank you for tuning in. If you'd like to meet us in the metaverse, then we will see you there. So thank you from here at Goa Music Lab. Thank you for tuning into studio sessions, and see you in the metaverse shortly.